Bypassing Congress, the Biden administration has sanctioned an urgent sale to Israel of roughly 14,000 rounds of tank ammunition valued over $106 million as Israel escalates its military actions in Gaza's south.
This development occurs while President Biden's proposed aid package of nearly $106 billion for Ukraine, Israel, and other national security concerns is stalled in Congress, entangled in debates over U.S. immigration policy and border security. Wade Addison reporting.
Israel's defense forces report the seizure of what used to be Hamas's main base in Gaza City, yet intense conflict persists further south in Gaza, exacerbating the plight of civilians.
The United Nations humanitarian bodies indicate that nearly 90% of Gaza's population, close to 2 million people, have been displaced. The UN World Food Programme notes that almost the entire population is facing prolonged periods without food, with half suffering from starvation. Benjamin Wright reporting.
Ex-Congressman George Santos is in discussions with federal prosecutors in Long Island for a plea bargain, as revealed by a recent court filing.
The involved parties are currently in negotiations for a plea deal with the objective of resolving the case without a trial, the document states. Santos, a Republican, has a scheduled appearance in the federal court in Central Islip on Tuesday for a status conference. A trial was initially set for September 9, 2024. Jessica Oakley reporting.
Russian dissident Alexei Navalny has vanished from the penal colony where he was detained since the previous year, leaving his allies unable to determine his whereabouts.
On Friday, lawyers attempted to reach IK6 and IK7, two Vladimir region colonies where Alexei Navalny could be, his spokesperson, Kira Yarmish, reported on social media Monday. They were simultaneously informed at both locations that he is not present. Alexei's current location remains unknown to us. Chris Anderson reporting.
This is the latest news headlines.
An American Air Force pilot is in stable condition after ejecting from a crashed F-16 fighter jet off South Korea's coast, say officials.
The pilot was rescued by South Korean maritime forces following an in-flight emergency over the Yellow Sea at 8:43 a.m. local time, as reported by Air Force officials. The crash occurred shortly after takeoff from Kunsan Air Base, located approximately 110 miles south of Seoul. Kevin Sanders reporting.
Authorities have charged 10 teenagers on Monday for a series of carjackings in Washington, D.C., highlighting a significant increase in this crime in the capital.
The 10 accused are linked to 2 carjacking syndicates in D.C., according to authorities. Charged as adults, they are allegedly behind at least 15 vehicle thefts, often involving armed robbery, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia Matthew Graves announced at a press briefing. These charges mark the largest federal carjacking arrests in D.C. this year, stated Graves. Lawrence Keller reporting.
Smile Direct Club is ceasing operations mere months after the troubled dental aligner company sought bankruptcy protection.
Announced on Friday, Smile Direct Club said it has made the extremely tough decision to halt its global operations effective immediately. This leaves existing customers uncertain about their ongoing treatments. The Nashville-based company confirmed the discontinuation of its aligner treatments through its telehealth platform and advised customers to seek further dental care locally. Anna Parker reporting.
Toy manufacturer Hasbro announced on Monday its decision to cut around 1,100 jobs, equating to 20% of its workforce amid continued downturn in the toy industry.
This announcement, disclosed in a staff memo and a regulatory filing, follows reports by the Wall Street Journal. The Rhode Island-based maker of Monopoly, Play-Doh, and My Little Pony stated these layoffs add to 800 job cuts already made in 2023 as part of a plan to save up to $300 million annually by 2025. Kyle Norris reporting.
And that's the latest news headlines with Alan Edwards.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 Hour Pain Relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain, but I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 Hour Pain Relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 Hour Pain Relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 Hour Pain Relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
Is the Jeff Santos Show on the Revolution Radio Network. Rebuilding America together, investing, activism, and supporting the middle class. Now, here's Jeff.
Thank you, Josh, and good afternoon, Americans, and welcome to the Jeff Santos Show. It is great to be with you on this Friday edition of the program, coming to you live again from the South Coast here in Massachusetts. We have a fantastic program for you. Bernie Porn, the great pollster from Epic MRA Polling, will be with us at 2:34 p.m. We'll talk about Michigan, the importance of it, how the fight in Israel and Gaza connects to what is happening in terms of support, particularly amongst young African Americans and Arab Americans, with the large population there in Dearborn of Muslim and Arab Americans. We'll get into that, and how the message may have to change for the president in that state and others as well. Bernie Porn coming up at 2:33 p.m. today here on the Jeff Santos Show. We'll take your calls in the next half hour at 833-545-5333. That's 833-545-5333. I want to chat a little bit about my experience in Boston last night. Went up, as you know, many people live, under an hour from the city, and traffic was intense, which gets me to an issue that we don't talk a lot about, but we will be coming up. There is a drastic need for transportation alternatives for people who live outside of Boston, particularly south of Boston. When you think of the South Coast, the New Bedford Fall River area does not yet have, although they're very close to be able to go in there. In southeastern Massachusetts, a crisis of Providence, where everything and the ability to have rail and to update the rail that tracks the cars that carry the people and maintain them to the level where they have trains that go from Paris to Avignon. What used to take 6 hours now takes 3 hours because of technology. We've seen what it's done throughout Japan, of course. Look, you want to be a first world country, one of the things you need to do is you need to move people from point A to point B. I was stuck in traffic yesterday going into Boston it took me an extra half an hour. On the way back, this is at 8:30 at night. This shouldn't be the case. Now, again, accidents happen, there's traffic. But if you have more ability to get people off the roads
into a clean, and this is important because a lot of trains still are using diesel, which pollutes, a way to be able to get people to and fro. Now, this is not only a Boston case. In fact, we have the oldest subway here in Massachusetts. But it is really important to be able to move people all across the country. In the Midwest, they've been doing high-speed rail for a while. So you go Chicago to places like Detroit, and all around, they are critical components of all of this. Critical components. And, you want to get people, and our friends in California can attest to this too. They've been trying to get high-speed rail between LA and San Francisco for a long time. And, it's a combination of Amtrak, combination of commuter rail. It's a combination of a bunch of things, but it can't be done. Not to take, as kind of a choo-choo train of the 1940s kind of scenario. So you got to be able to figure out, avenues here. LA made a big deal over the last 20 years in having a subway system in LA. Still not perfect, but at least it gets people from point A to point B. That was not thought of when I was living in the 80s. People said, give me a break. Everybody drives in LA. And that's why that's why they had the worst smog in the world, if not the world, at least in America. And then, of course, you had all the road rage, which develops out there because people can't move. If you ever saw the movie Falling Down, that's how the movie began. The guy just left his car on the highway and walked over and into the inner city of Los Angeles, and there's the movie. You can check it out, Michael Douglas, early 90s. But, this is a really important piece of the puzzle. And President Biden, and I'm going to talk about this because I think this is really important. This is a sweet spot for him, and he needs to talk about it. And people who are going to be surrogates for him in 2024 need to talk about it as well. Last night, as I said, I was in Boston, an event of the Democratic Party here in Massachusetts. And I was so impressed with the new governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey, who just took the office this year. Look, there are people who understand their role to motivate people, to inspire them, and really to kind of take off the gloves. And there was a little incident there and so on and so forth. She came back into that room and she gave one of the best speeches I have seen and heard in a long time. And I tell you, it is to me exactly what Democrats need to do, the surrogates need to do. We cannot have people just saying, "Oh well, Biden's got a great economy, so he's going to win because of that." No. If you watched Chris Hayes, as I did on tape delay later last night when I got home, Cornell Betcher, who was the African American pollster from Obama days, said, "Look, we need to tell people what is going on, and you need to be able to localize it." So Maura Healey, as an example, should be in New Hampshire throughout 2024, should be in Pennsylvania, the Northeast corridor, right? Where a lot of these races will be decided. You can go down to Virginia. Gavin Newsom, like I said the other day, California, Nevada, Arizona, keep them over there. Gretchen Whitmer, a lot of people think that she could be a great candidate in 28. Who knows, maybe even sooner. She's in Michigan. You got Wisconsin, you got Ohio, obviously Michigan, and you got, Pennsylvania's not far away, particularly the western part of the state. So, there are ways to do this. And there's Warnock in the South, in Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, large African-American populations. He's a preacher and a great senator. So you utilize these folks. You make it clear that you got to get out and you got to tell the story of Biden. And I mentioned the infrastructure because it happened to me last night, and we always, refer to our own selves when things happen to us, right? Well, these are things that have to be talked about because Donald Trump is not going to build rail for people in this country because the money he's getting are from massive fossil fuel companies. And they don't want competition. They want their cars. They want make sure the cars are not electric, by the way. And, because they're going to find all kind of problems. Oh, there's not enough charging stations. So we got to eliminate it. The wind turbines. You ever see Trump talk about that? Oh, the wind, they're going to cut the birds out and so forth. Always a negative. When it comes to fossil fuel, got to protect that. Top 1%. Big primary, big donors. So this is what is at stake, folks. And I must tell you, hearing again from the governor, I must tell you, I believe there is ample opportunity here for the governor of Massachusetts, for a number of people who I mentioned, the Warnocks, the Newsoms, the Whitmers. And again, I mentioned it before, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Cory Bush, you can go on and on. Elizabeth Warren, Merkley. These are all people that know how to handle the media. And they're progressive and they can mobilize people. That you got a former bartender, former nurse in AOC and Bush. You get people who are working class, understand that world. Sherrod Brown's another one. Now he's stuck in his race, and I understand that. But is it working in when Republicans take over the state of Ohio? Just ask Jerry Austin. He's the lone survivor. I think that you need to express yourself, Democratic Party. Take off the gloves. Make it clear. We have a lot to be proud of under Biden. American Rescue Plan, again, aided by people like Ron Klain, who brought in Bernie Sanders and Jayapal and everybody else. And you got to talk up what you've accomplished. Our good friend, again, to mention Jerry Austin, he was saying, why are we not doing these ads, a year ago? Got to remind people, this is too much going on. I mean, if you're a sports fan, and we're going to start doing more sports on Friday, by the way, probably starting next week. You got the Ohtani signing. You got football. You got the green thing and basketball. He's punching a guy and he's always going to be suspended indefinitely. It's a counseling thing. He doesn't need to be spanked on the behind. He needs to have counseling. You just don't hit somebody when you're in some kind of conflict. That's criminal behavior. It's so simple, right? So you got to have somebody who can say, look, there are other ways to do conflict resolution here. You're a great player, a smart guy on top of it. So you have all these things going on. That's just, the male in me that's your refuge some ways. So some people have, a big family to take care of, parents they have to take care of, senior parents. So you have all these things. So if you don't spend the time talking to people, telling them what's going on, then they're gonna find out what is already in their face every day, because the Republicans control radio, talk radio, AM and FM. They control Fox, America Online, all these other cuckoo outlets, but they're out there. And of course, the mainstream outlets like a CNN, they basically take what they hear and what they have in terms of sound. And of course, you got the bloviator in the orange hair fascist. So they're going to take that. So you need to feed the pipeline, and you want to do it with your rising stars. And Maura Healey, the governor of Massachusetts, is just that. A rising star, and somebody who I believe will be a national candidate in years to come. But she's got to do her job here in Massachusetts. And I think a lot of people in the Commonwealth who overwhelmingly voted for her last year will see that she is reelected and so forth. Again, you got to keep the pressure on. as progressives to do the right thing, but you have talent. And whether you're on a basketball court, as Maura Healey was, she's an ex-athlete, great point guard. That's another part of her character that I think comes out. Not all athletes, you don't want a bunch of right-wing defensive tackles out there who are Trumpies, being in government. But there are some people who actually care. Bill Bradley comes to mind, the great NBA player with the Knicks, great senator from New Jersey for a number of years, ran for president. So there's a lot of examples here. But I want to just kind of put a bow on this. We'll open up the phone lines. Again, folks, you can always check us out after the show, 2 to 3, WCAP AM 980 Eastern Time. Go to Facebook, go to YouTube, go to Twitch and Twitter, and now X, and put in Jeff Santos Show anytime you want. Tell your friends about it. If they want to watch it on the weekend at 3 a.m. in the morning, whatever. Tell them, it's a good show. You can learn something, particularly if you're left of center. All right. 833-545-5333. Let's start off with our good friend John. Then we'll go to Tom and Mark in that order. John, what say you, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you want somebody with, some charisma, personality, and some force, and a moral backbone, in government. And I see that in our state delegation, but particularly Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison. I would say our governor is the same way. And there's a whole new crop of Democrats that have moved, in that direction, instead of the limped, let's suck up to neoliberalism, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and Dianne Feinstein, the late Dianne Feinstein. We don't need that kind of politic anymore. It gets you nowhere. You have to stand for something, say something. And I think that, we're really, kind of at the fork in the road. We can either go in a positive direction, or we could sink down into the abyss. And the abyss is authoritarianism and hate speech, divisiveness. Herb brought up the fact that, we have all of these different groups like Arab Americans, Jewish Americans, various people that you can divide. But one thing that connects all of these people is their humanity. And their humanity comes through in people like the head of the auto union. And the auto unions have, the manufacturer unions have always brought in, the groups of people like African Americans and people of color, whatnot. And so this is where we should be moving to, because that was the success.
No, you make a really good point there. I want to hold you for a second because I think you make a good point.
Yeah.
We have talked on this show, and we've had really honest discussions with Herb Boyd, because in the 1960s there were a lot of African Americans who couldn't join unions. They were kind of put to the other side.
That is right.
Outside, yeah, exactly,
right.
But the Galbraiths of the world, the A. Philip Randolphs, and others, helped bring that situation to a much better scenario than it is today, and we see a much different situation today. There have been African American leaders of AFSCME and a bunch of other major unions. But I think it's really important that people do it. And unions, I mentioned this yesterday, the whole thing about it's a collective process. It's people, it's a team. It's not one individual. And we got to get away from that. The Republicans offer you the one individual. You make all the money in the world, join our party, trickle down, we'll get it to you. It may take 70,000 years, but we'll get it to you. That's the model of the wealthy, rich 1% Republican Party. We got to be the opposite. And I think the unions, as you and Mark and Tom and many others have talked about on this show, and we have talked with other great guests about, is that's the future. The Democratic Party has to be the party of we. We do things together. We have better government, good government. It's the way to transport a number of people, not just one person in one car, clogging up the highways and the freeways of this country. That's where we have to go. And we do that, we win. That's the way I look at it. And I think, you're doing some great things there, and the people that you help elect in Minnesota, from the governor to Ellison on down, they've done some great things. A lot of the states should start emulating what Minnesota has done, John. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, my friend. Let's go to Los Angeles. Thank you. Tom, you're next here on the Jeff Santos Show. What say you?
Jeff, first off, we the people ultimately are the government, and we must never forget that.
I love that we.
Second, we have to think, Biden is like a head football coach or a captain of a ship. And basically he has a coalition of people, and he's smart enough, and he's been in government long enough to know the right people to actually delegate to. Because we don't want to have something like a George War criminal Bush, where he puts a head of the horse trainer in charge of FEMA, or you got someone like the previous guy, and he.
Well, what about a liar in chief and Dick Cheney running foreign policy?
Exactly.
Put it into one man's hand, and the guy should have been in jail after lying us to him through Iraq and killing 4,000 Americans and a lot more. Yeah.
That's why I call George War criminal. That's what that W stands for.
Right.
And the other thing is, Bidenomics is working. The prescription drugs, the infrastructure. In fact, I heard someone call on the Earl Ingram show earlier today, and she was talking about how they're getting internet in the rural areas for the first time.
Yep.
That's because of Joe Biden.
I agree. And a lot of pressure from our friends, Bernie Sanders and those on the left. It's that coalition.
100%.
Again, I point to Ron Klain, and I think progressives should know that. Right.
Absolutely.
All of us contribute.
And the thing is, we have to push. We have to push Joe Biden to be even more like FDR every single day. But we don't need to demonize him. We don't need to ageist him. We don't need to do any of that stuff. We just need him to continue to be pushed, like FDR said, make me do it. And
well said.
we are safer and we are more prosperous under the Biden-Harris administration than we are under the past administration. And we need to remember, unions and things like this would not even be happening right now with the power if it wasn't for a Democratic administration, because the Republicans would just basically close their eyes and not even listen.
You're so correct, Tom. You are spot on, my friend. Hey, I thank you, man. I got to go to the next call. I believe this is Chris.
You bet.
Thank you, Tom. Chris, you're next here on the Jeff Santos Show.
Bon dia, Mr. Santos, and I'm a first-time caller to your program. I hope that Nikki Haley will be the next candidate for President of the United States. We finally need a woman to run that office. Joe Biden has done so, but he could do more if he wasn't a prime minister, etc.
A what? What do you say?
We need these, etc. I can't understand what he's saying.
Well, you have to pay attention a little bit more. I think he's pretty articulate. I don't know what you're saying about Nikki Haley.
So.
Nikki Haley is a fraud. She doesn't have anything more than than Donald Trump does. A little bit less caustic, but Nikki Haley is a waste of space as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for the call, Chris.
One real fast thing about him is he's the only president that had 3 Supreme Court justices. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a disaster, too. Look what it's got us. And look at the abortion situation. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. You're always listening. We appreciate all opinions as well. All right, folks, we're going to come back. Bernie Porn joins us on the other side. He, of course, is the great pollster from Michigan. We'll learn a lot about that state, and we'll take your calls, too. 833-545-5333. Back in a flash.
Baby, You don't have to wait for amazing deals on a new floor. Get spring Black Friday deals right now at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 35% on gorgeous hardwood and waterproof vinyl floors. Plus, we can arrange for installation by professional, independent contractors. And with special financing, you can get started today. These are the floors homes are built on. Lumber Liquidators Flooring.
The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863. Or online at LoneStarTransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com.
Supporting the middle class. This is the Jeff Santos Show.
Three minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show that you are tuned into. Coming to you live from the South Coast. We are here every Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, check us out on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, of course, anytime you want by going to the search bar, put in Jeff Santos Show, and voila, you'll be able to watch us anytime you might want. You can also, by the way, email me, Jeff, at revolutionboston.com, Jeff with a J. And on Facebook and Twitter, you can post there at Jeff Santos Show. We'll read them on the air as well. Our next guest is so important to give us a perspective of what is happening in Michigan. He is the best when it comes to polling in that great state. He has been doing it for a number of years, first working in the legislative body there in the House and Senate, and of course been running as the president of Epic MRA Polling. Our good friend Bernie Porn joins us on the line from Lansing, Michigan. Bernie, great to have you back, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing just great. A fine Friday afternoon to you, Jeff. and always glad to be on your program.
Well, it's great to have you on. We learn so much, and we end up getting the perspective here of somebody who is there in the middle of the fight in the Midwest, which is critical to winning in this country. I mean, I don't know how you feel about the popular vote. I think, to me, people in Michigan are always going to be key, regardless if there's a popular vote or not, because it's a very important state in the country. In fact, if they're smart, in my opinion, the Democratic Party should make it number one, because it's really diversity with the large African and Arab American populations. And of course, you have all the Midwestern elements to it and so forth. So you get a little rural, you get the urban issues in Detroit. So how do you feel about that? I mean, is there anybody in Michigan? Oh my God, we go ahead.
A little bit country, a little bit rock and roll. We have it all in Michigan, and 26% of the planet's fresh water surrounds Michigan. So that's in our peninsula. So these are all great things to have.
Well, I think it's important, and I think if we get a popular vote, I think Michigan will still be key, regardless. We're going to have to deal with, having to win certain states and do these things that were done a couple hundred years ago that no other democracy uses any longer. An electoral college. People in the UK are not worrying about whether you can win Liverpool or whether you can win Glasgow or south of London. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. All right. Well, I want to talk about.
Anyways,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, Michigan right now is a tough sell for President Biden.
I want to get to
68% in our last poll said that the country is off in the wrong direction, off on the wrong track, and for Michigan. Narrowly 47 to 44% set off on the wrong track, and Biden has a 37% favorable rating, 56% unfavorable, 47% very unfavorable. But Donald Trump has a 39% favorable. That's the first time he has a higher favorability rating than the president. 55% total unfavorable and 49% very unfavorable. And the president has a 30% positive job rating, which is lower than the national numbers, 49% poor. However, Gretchen Whitmer has 53% favorable rating and a 51% positive job rating. But in the matchup, troubling number shows that Donald Trump, for the first time, leads by 5 percentage points, 46 to 41. And we also matched up Biden against Nikki Haley, and Haley leads Biden by 11 points, 47 to 36. And just a few days ago, a CNN poll, I think a couple days ago, showed that Michigan is now has a 10-point lead for Trump over Biden. So Biden needs to, I think, change his messaging around and try to address the number one concern, which is inflation. And even though inflation has gone down, and you've got even gas prices, I just filled up my tank, and it's below $3 a gallon.
Yep, me too. I was just going to say that.
Where I got it.
Yeah.
Things are looking up on inflation, and with the lower cost for gasoline, that means that those costs at the grocery store will start to drop as well. A lot has already happened. It was at 9% inflation rate, and now it's down to a little bit over 3%, and so things are looking up. But unfortunately, people don't know it yet. And
well, that's the case I want to get to. Last night, can you hear me, Bernie?
We need to address that, and Biden needs to talk about how he is addressing inflation and how the Republicans and Donald Trump would not. And one classic example would be to talk about Republicans unanimously trying to eliminate the Inflation Reduction Act, which includes the prescription drug requirement that you can only pay $35 a month for insulin, and it also includes a reduction in deductibles and premium payments for health care from $7,300 currently down to $2,000 in 2025. And so these are some of the things that he has already done in terms of reducing the cost for people, and there's other things that he can do, and he needs to address those, and also talk about how Trump is such a danger to our democracy. Donald Trump is a Putin, Kim Jong-un, and even, sadly, Adolf Hitler wannabe. And his own language clearly spells that out. And the things that he would do if he were to become president again, Biden needs to scare.
I mean, Bernie, I want to interrupt you because I'm not
truth.
sure you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. If I have interrupted you, I apologize.
Oh, no. Because I said a couple of things and I don't think you actually have heard me. So I want to make sure we're the same way. We'll talk to our studio back in Florida.
Coming in and out a little bit.
You are? Okay. Let's see if we can fix this phone line, Josh.
What did you ask me?
That. Well, I wanted to ask you, the thing that to me is relevant is that couple of your colleagues, Belcher from the Obama days was on MSNBC last night, and he was talking about that progressives, and I don't know why he picked on progressives, but we'll just take it I think Democrats as a whole need to do a better job of promoting what Biden has done. And I think Biden has to reach out to a lot of young progressives, not only the voters, but people who, talk to them, regularly, AOC, Cori Bush, et cetera. And to me, and my good friend John Nichols was talking about this the other day, the great writer from nearby Wisconsin, and of course, The Nation magazine's national affairs correspondent. He said, well, what has happened, particularly in your state, particularly to somebody like Tlaib, is that, she has been ostracized, sticking up for the Palestinians in Gaza. And even if you want to have someone like her or her fellow squad mate, AOC, who has endorsed Biden, I think Tlaib might have too. I'm not sure about that. And then, of course, many others, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, who have come out for the ceasefire, I believe, too. This issue seems to be probably the one issue, and I would love to hear what you're hearing in Michigan, not only with Tlaib, but others. And it's causing problems because, to me, I want to be unified. I want to see Biden win. We all know the problems, but let's move forward. But I think what has to happen here is that he needs to get surrogates who have ability to motivate the room. I was last night in a room with the governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey, would be described as a progressive. But, you got people like Warnock in Georgia. You got, Gavin Newsom, maybe more moderate, but still progressive in California. They can go to all these states and talk up Biden's goals as economic concerns. We got low unemployment. So is the issue that you're seeing firsthand with those numbers that you talked about, is it the issue of inflation, or is this Palestinian-Israeli situation what is really hurting the connection between Biden and progressives? Your thoughts?
Both. And indeed, you hear Biden more and more, I don't know if you want to say scolding Netanyahu, but saying, look, you've got to reduce the number of fatalities and the folks who are not involved in this, the Palestinians, in terms of people that are being bombed indiscriminately, and he used that word. So I think he is moving more and more toward, I don't know whether he's going to ever come out and say we need to have a ceasefire, but he continues to say you need to eliminate Hamas, but you got to stop killing innocents in the Gaza Strip, and you've got to stop doing this. The things that he is saying, all you have to do, look up the Arab American News out of Dearborn, and you look at the headlines and the news that most Arabs in Michigan read, the Arab American News, and they have been very, very critical of Biden, and they call for a ceasefire. And there are some things that Biden has done. I think if it were not for Biden and the Biden administration, there may not have been an opening for allowing aid and whether it's medical aid, food and assistance, and now gasoline and oil to run the hospitals. I don't think that would have happened at all. So Biden is taking, I think, a pro-Palestinian position on a number of different things, but he is being more critical of the indiscriminate bombing of the Palestinian areas, and he, I think, needs to continue in that direction, and that will help. But he still is saying that Israel needs to be able to eliminate Hamas, and there's no way that anyone is going to stop Netanyahu from doing that. However, he needs to have a more surgical approach in doing it and stop the number of casualties.
Well, outrageous. What I mean, he's on borderline fascism over there because he wants to take over the Supreme Court. I mean, just a couple of months ago, that was the image. People in the protest. It's 22% approval rating last time I checked, too, as well. I want to ask you: have you polled at all? A question of ceasefire is it Biden? See, to me, if you got 66% of the American people, one of the polls that I saw, want a ceasefire. I mean, that's a majority. I mean, what is the problem with him saying that? I know a good friend, Herb Boyd, who grew up in Michigan, great journalist in the Amsterdam News in Detroit. He said, well, you got a large Jewish population as well as the Arab population. I said, yeah, but last night in Boston, they had Jewish Americans for Peace. They stopped traffic, which was annoying, but they get their point out, which I think was really good. They failed. It doesn't make much sense to me not to be for a ceasefire. It's for peace. Go ahead. Sorry,
well,
I didn't mean to overtalk you there.
They have not noted that even in Israel, the polling shows that people are not in favor of this continued bombing campaign. They're divided fairly evenly as to whether or not to eliminate Hamas and have the bombing continue, or having a ceasefire, because they know that a ceasefire increases the likelihood of getting those 135 remaining hostages out of Gaza. And it is unlikely when the war continues for that to happen.
Right. When 3 Israelis were killed today, friendly fire by Israeli troops,
yes,
that to me is another reason to sort of look at a ceasefire. I don't really think there's a negative here. I understand how the Israeli, folks think about a ceasefire. It gives more time for Hamas to do it. But to me, it's a scenario that is peace. If you want to get to a resolution, you got to stop the fighting. You just can't keep things going on, and all of a sudden you're going to get somebody to say, all right, well, let's go to the table. I mean, this doesn't work that way. And, so I'd be surprised. Well, I don't know, again, if you've actually taken what Michiganders say about a ceasefire, but I would be surprised that it doesn't match the national level, which is at about 66%. But that being said,
be surprised if it didn't as well. I think I would agree with you that voters in Michigan would pretty much mirror what the national numbers are showing, and people believe that you, by having a ceasefire, increase the likelihood of getting those hostages out. And there are still 8 American hostages that are in the mix that
I think so.
we obviously want to get out. And
yes.
Biden just met with them, I believe, yesterday.
God willing, they can all come out, as well as all the Israelis. We need to have people come back in one piece, not in body bags. So I want to talk to you, and I know that a couple of calls. Go ahead, finish your thought.
I was just going to say the Israeli-Hamas war is a big piece of Biden's problems. inflation is an equal piece of the puzzle, but he needs to, I think, to change in terms of his messaging, and all the things that he has said about his accomplishments thus far have not really connected with people. It may
Right.
be
No,
in
it
the
hasn't resonated.
well.
I want to go there, then I want to bring in Mark from San Francisco, who has his views on this. And if we can, we get to John too. But in Minnesota, I want to say this. I think, and I heard last night, the Massachusetts governor, feisty. She's a former point guard, almost made the WNBA, I believe. I feel that you need the surrogates now. Right there in Michigan, you talked about the popularity of Whitmer. I mean, is there, from what you understand, on the QT, I mean, is there, a scenario where you could bring in, the head of the UAW right there in Michigan and Whitmer and do big events, for Biden? I mean, you need the surrogates. And Whitmer is a good one.
There's no
She's
reason why
popular
you
in her
can't.
home state. Right.
Well,
I mean, to
and,
me, that's been the big,
and
problem in the campaign. For
we asked one question.
Doesn't have people talking about
and
his
that is thinking
accomplishments.
about Michigan's economy. A question that we had thinking about Michigan's economy over the past several months. Do you think Michigan's economy has improved, gotten worse, or remained about the same? Only 19% said improved, and that's down about 5 points from the previous time we tested it. 36% said gotten worse, 43% said remained about the same. I think Whitmer's involvement in messaging about that issue could help to improve Biden's numbers significantly, because things have improved in Michigan. As a matter of fact, I just saw a report.
Why hasn't she already been out?
Where
Bernie,
I think she should. I think she should, and there's a number of issues that she could talk about that support Biden, that she believes in, and she has, I think, a lot of credibility with Michigan voters in terms of talking about Biden, and I'm surprised that she hasn't done that more than she has, because obviously she can't run for re-election again. She could potentially, in a Biden next term, be in a position with the administration, but there's no reason why she could not participate in some messaging that I think would improve Biden's lot tremendously in Michigan, and quite frankly, she has enough support that she could have an impact in the Great Lakes region by talking
I
about
agree.
all
go
of
to Minnesota,
these issues,
go to Wisconsin. Those are all these places, Western PA.
Yep.
Just 30 seconds, if you can. Then we're going to go to Mark, because I got a bunch of calls for you. Unions are leading in so many ways. Biden is, should get a lot of credit for that. Some unions now are coming out for a ceasefire. We're hearing about that. We're also hearing that they are involved, in communicating with Biden. Sean O'Brien of the Teamsters, a Boston guy, but obviously Michigan, the Hoffa world, and again, UAW. I mean, Michigan is the union state. So, I mean, they should be out there speaking on his behalf too. So there's a lot there. All right, let's go to San Francisco.
That is very much needed. Go ahead.
Mark in San Francisco, you're next. Former labor leader himself in the printing area in the Chronicle. You're next with Bernie Porn in the great state of Michigan. Go right ahead, Mr. Mark.
Yeah, Bernie and Jeff, Biden needs to lean in on being a union president for unions and organizing, and go to Michigan and really talk about that. But he needs people to start talking about the economy. The economy is doing great compared to Trump. It's day and night. They're going to have to put up some billboards showing the difference between Trump and him. And the other thing is, if people are concerned about the, people dying in Gaza, which they should be, they ought to consider, if Trump gets in, how many other countries will be let to the dictators that want to invade. And there'll be a lot of deaths there. So they need to do some messaging out there, because people over in Michigan need to hear this stuff.
For sure.
I agree wholeheartedly. And the messaging that they need to do. I think talking about the economy and union leaders need to be involved in the equation as well, because among union members, Trump is leading by, it was 4 or 5 points, and now it's 9 points in Michigan. And so union leaders talking about Biden and what he has done, not only for the economy, but he has also been very supportive of union members in terms of improving their pay and benefits.
Right, of course. Why? I understand that Trump, has done well amongst, the hard hats and so forth. But why is he doing so well? What do the members, when you poll them, union members, what do they attribute that to?
I think it had a lot to do with what he said about electric vehicles, because union members are concerned about the fewer number of jobs that are required to make electric vehicles than the number of jobs required to make gas-powered vehicles. And so with the certainty of implementing electric vehicles and not a great deal of messaging along those lines in terms of why and how it can be transitioned, and having battery plants and a lot of people who are union workers being able to convert into some other jobs if in fact they're not working on electric vehicles. Biden needs to explain how that is all going to happen, because that is one of the big things. And Trump came in and said electric vehicles are going to be the end of everything.
Yeah, that's the wind turbines, all that kind of stuff. It's killing birds.
Yep.
Thank you, Mark. Let's go to John in Minnesota before we end this conversation. John, you're next. I only got about 60 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to really quickly say Sean Fain, I think the president of the auto workers, was supporting or is supporting a ceasefire. So, why not have Whitmer, him, Tlaib, bring these groups together in Michigan to, push for Biden and to push for a ceasefire. I think that's a win-win, and maybe would attract a lot of people to change their mind about what Biden is doing in Michigan.
Thank you, John. 30 seconds,
I would agree.
Bernie.
I would agree, and Biden has done a lot in terms of scolding, if you will, Netanyahu about avoiding civilian casualties, but he needs to go a little bit farther, and a ceasefire, or at least a pause in a more regulated way would be helpful.
Yeah, and everybody in the State Department and Defense echoing that as well, and people on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee too. Bernie Porn, Epic MRA Polar President, thank you, man. We'll do this again very soon. Appreciate you. I appreciate Josh and the team down there in Boca. Look forward to that, my friend. And the rest of the team there in Boca Raton, Florida. Thank you, Josh. Folks, keep on fighting peacefully. The key word, peacefully. Have a great weekend. Until Monday, my name is Jeff Santos, and right now I gotta go.